572-0215. Rev-Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Join the United Workers' Party this and every Thursday on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for an educational and informative program, Meet the Opposition. Participate in exciting discussions from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Be in the know every Thursday on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
It's now time for Meet the Opposition, hosted by Lenard Spider Montoute. Mr. Montoute, good to see you again.
Yes, good morning, Andre. Good morning to all our viewers and listeners. And let me first start by apologizing for my late arrival. I was late to begin with, and I got to the Maris Hill Junction. There's an accident which made it even worse. So, very sorry about that. I'm hoping that we can make up for that during the course of the program with something very interesting. Now, I wish I could have called this the Carnival edition, but I can't sing calypso. I'm not a reveler or anything like that. But it will be remiss of me if I don't at least say one or two things about, the Carnival. I know many of you are gearing up for that enjoyable weekend and so on. And we want you to have fun. We want you to enjoy yourselves, but do it, with some measure of modesty. I mean, I'm not the most conservative person there is, but I find sometimes we take it to the extremes. When it comes to the consumption of alcohol, that too, I would like to strongly suggest that we imbibe responsibly, and another important aspect, I want to ask that we do have our fun peacefully. Let not the newscasters have anything to report about any injuries, fatalities, or anything like that. Have fun, clean fun, enjoy yourself, so that afterwards you can reflect on it, look back on it, and speak about it gleefully without any, regrets or negatives. So that is my advice for all the revelers. I mean, I'm not a reveler myself. The aspect of Carnival that I am into is really calypso. Although I must say, like I've said before, that this year was another big disappointment for me, because I see that, the St. Lucia Labour Party has entrenched themselves into the calypso arena and have hijacked it in effect. So much so that the Calypso tent now feels like a St. Lucia Labour Party event. Even the finals looked a bit like a St. Lucia Labour Party rally. And I think that's unfortunate. And again, I keep saying it, and I know some take offense to it, but I will say what I think. I will express my opinion, and I will say it like I see it. So I believe that there's no doubt in my mind that many of the writers and calypsonians were bought. And, those of you who talk about slavery and all of that kind of thing, that's a form of slavery, when they were bought and forced to work for a personal organization. That's what's happening to you there right now. You were bought, I know that, and paid to sing the songs that you were singing, because in so doing, you broke with the tradition of true calypso. A real calypsonian, real calypso is about the people's plight. That is why that calypsonians got the title, the people's spokespersons. But you are not the people's spokesperson, you are the government's mouthpiece. Many of you went out there and sang outright partisan political songs on behalf of the St. Lucia Labour Party. While the St. Lucia Labour Party is in government, normally, I must tell you that, and we all know that, calypsonians sing against the government, or what should I say? I shouldn't say against the government, but calypsonians highlight the issues and failings of the government. They do not come to promote the government. Now, here's what has happened to us here in St. Lucia, which is a form of eroding our democracy. The St. Lucia Labour Party, first of all, hijacked the media. Okay, they have 80% of the media working for government, pushing propaganda for the St. Lucia Labour Party. That is one. They have infiltrated many organizations and institutions, and I'm going to boldly say institutions and organizations like the National Trust. You will only hear the National Trust speak out on the issues that they ought to pay attention to when the United Workers' Party forms the government. Once it is the Labour Party in government, you do not hear them. I challenge any one of you to send me a clip of anything that the National Trust has said in the last 4 years. And I want you to also tell me there's nothing to talk about too. So you can clearly see an infiltration, a deliberate calculated approach, the communist style takeover of all organs of society so that they can reign supreme without challenge, without opposition. Of course, you all cannot buy out or hijack the opposition, the United Workers' Party. Those you all could have bought, you all have bought and they're with you all already. But the rest of us will remain to speak out on the issues that affect and concerns the people of St. Lucia and matters that to save our country. Now, then also, I mentioned the institutions, I mentioned the media. You all have bought the calypsonians too. Because very often, even when the media became scared of speaking, the calypsonians would speak out. And we know that calypsonians have a special license. The things they sing and the way they sing it, a media person cannot do that, another politician cannot do that, but they have that license. And that has been eroded, that has been taken away, and it is a sad day. You all will see what I'm talking about eventually. Because you see, when you do things like that, sometimes it becomes irreversible. And when all our freedoms and our voices are lost, I want to know who will speak out on behalf of those who are oppressed, those who are victimized, those who are threatened, and so on. I want to know who will speak on their behalf. Because there must be checks and balances in a democracy. And one of the checks is what you want in a society, and that is historical. There are organizations and voices in a society that puts peer pressure even, not necessarily any legal action, but even peer pressure, where society comes down on you and condemns you, and you are forced to conform. We are losing all of that now because the St. Lucia Labour Party has calculatedly and strategically decided to erode all of those checks and balances that forms a democracy. And so shame on you calypsonians who have sold yourselves, you have sold your soul, and you're trying to sell the art form. You are literally destroying the art form here in St. Lucia, by what you have done. And I'm going to go as far as to say, well, a couple of you all placed, but I'm happy none of you all won the crown, to be very honest with you. And while we're talking about the negatives, let me
just a quick thing.
Yeah.
You said there was a show that was like a Labour Party rally?
The Calypso Monarch Finals.
So can you
saw
describe
people
it?
with red flags and so on, waving, and calypsonians coming to sing Labour Party campaign songs. Okay, that's what it was.
Okay.
Now, if you want to know what I'm talking about, I'm not saying so because it is not the UWP. I have been at Calypso finals, I have been at Calypso shows, tents, where supporters of the Labour Party who are Calypsonians, UWP, supporters of the UWP who are Calypsonians blast the UWP. Okay? Now, at the time I was in government, whether I agreed with them or not, I respected their right to do so, and I will defend their right to do so, because that is important, that there is someone who will dare to challenge authority and speak out against authority if they deem what is going on is wrong. You cannot tell me, Andre, in the face of all the allegations of corruptions we hear about CIP, in the sellout of our two ports, Soufrière and Castries to GPH, with the $80 million that was borrowed by the National Lotteries Authority, and none of us have been given an account as to how that money has been spent. With the halls of justice that's going to cost St. Lucian so much in the next 15 years, it's cost the NH, a foreign company, some $140-something million, but it's going to cost us over 200. Okay? You look at the fact that the government, at the height of inflation, the height of rising cost of living, imposed a 2.5% levy on us deceitfully at that. They lied to us, and they imposed a 2.5 levy on us to make cost of living even higher in St. Lucia. Okay? A government that, in the face of the decreasing oil prices on the international market, continue to make us pay high prices at the pump for a gallon of fuel. Okay, at one time it was $17.95. They brought it down to $16.50, and now that election is approaching, they brought it to $16, which is still exorbitant, extorting money from the taxpayers. Not one Calypsonian, well, there are one or two, but you mean the majority of Calypsonians, none of them saw it fit to sing about those things? I mean, really? I mean, you have politicians in cabinet with weekly talk shows abusing people, insulting people, casting aspersions on people, threatening people. Okay, not one calypsonian, well, I can't say not one because there are those who did, but the majority of our calypsonians see nothing wrong with that, but to sing the praises of a government that does those things that I spoke about, that's unheard of. So you have betrayed your art form. You have let down the people of St. Lucia. And now, the calypsonians, you all are a disgrace to society because you're not playing your role. Okay, now I make a general statement. Forgive me, those of you who are not part of that, because I know there are some who are not. You just played a song a while ago that I love. You know, that was by Kaka.
Quarry.
Yeah, Quarry. And so, you know, I say those things. I mean,
I also played CIP. I played that one as well.
All right. Now, you see, and I mean, people like Morgie and Kakal come to mind. Regardless who is in office, they sing what they have to sing. You understand what I'm saying? I've sat in the tents, and I remember seeing Morgie came to me and said, "Boy, I give you a little job tonight, you know," and so on. No big deal. Afterwards, I go, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I wasn't the one celebrating and applauding the loudest, but, you know, you accept that as part, that is a given. That is what it is about, you know. But anyway, I'm hoping next year it'll be different. And I know next year it'll be different. Now, you might be wondering why, Andrew.
I know exactly why.
Because the United Workers' Party will form the government.
So licks in your skin.
That's right. And I dare the United Workers' Party to go and do the same, because I will criticize them the same way. Take your blows if it is, whether or not, Andre, whether, and hear me, whether or not it is justified. If the people, the calypsonians, deem, like if you bring manna from heaven and they deem that's wrong, let them say that is wrong. That's what democracy is about, you know? And so, I do not want to see the UWP go that route, because if we have both major parties going down that line, that means democracy is over here in St. Lucia. So,
let me ask you something. Let's put yourself in the place of the calypsonian for a minute, right? Or for a second. And they look forward to performing every year. This is what they love to do. And their songwriter would give them a song like what you're talking about, which is complimentary of the incumbent. Now, just put yourself in the shoes for a minute. Do you think that they should say, well, you know, if this is what I'm going to sing, I'd prefer not to sing this year?
Well,
what do you think of that?
It's a tough call, especially if you're not a writer yourself and you depend on songwriters for songs. But, I mean, there must be some principles in us, you know, Andre. We must take a stand for something. And there are certain things you'll not get me to say just because you're going to... Because I, like, say, I'll miss out on being on the program if Andre does not provide me for a script. Depending on the script you give me, Andre, I'll not say it. And are there only one set of songwriters? The songwriters that are there are only... Andre, I think it's more than that, you know. I don't... Because they can get other songwriters who will write, and they can tell the songwriters what subject they want, what theme they want to portray for the year. I think more than that, apart from the songwriters being paid, the calypsonians are being paid as well. I told you the calypsonians were bought. Okay? And it's a shame to see some of the calypsonians who were bought. Okay? Now, and why am I talking as if I'm afraid to call names? You know? People like Herb Black, a calypsonian that I hardly admire for his talent, his ability as a calypsonian, and even his writing. I think he's written some real creative songs and so on. But he's a sellout. He is a sellout. And he knows that I know what I'm talking about. He is a sellout, you know. When they go to the bank, Andre, they go with government's checks. They don't work for government. They don't work for government. They go to the banks with government checks. Okay? Challenge me. Andre, let me just say something to you. In 25 years now, I started in 2001. 24 years of being involved, actively involved in politics and openly involved in politics, I've only gotten one threat of a lawsuit. Okay, that's by Richard Frederick. And he knows he cannot go forward with that, because I would love for him to.
By the way, is that ongoing?
Well, let me tell you what the situation is. I said at, well, Andre, you told me already you don't need to go down that road here. But I said what I said at a Sunday Live.
Yes, I remember what you said, yes.
And by Monday afternoon, there's, how do you call the gentleman who bring the letters to you? A bailiff?
The bailiff, yes.
Bailiff served me with a letter from Richard's sister, who is a lawyer, pointing out to me that I made those comments and so on, and that they were giving me 7 days to apologize and to retract the statement. Okay? I had a show the night. I went on the show the night. I read parts of the letter so that people could know that that was the case, and I gave my position. My words were, and my words continue to be, if Richard Frederick genuinely expects an apology from me, ask him to hold his breath. Okay? Ask him, because he would choke before that happened.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I said to him is that he can go to hell. Okay? I'll see him in court. Because I thought he was a man of his word. That's why I said that part. Okay? Because you asked me why I haven't seen him in court. I haven't seen him in court because I thought he was a man of his word.
Mm-hmm.
So I do not, I've not counted how many 7 days have passed. Okay? Many 7 days have passed. Church of God, Catholic, everything has passed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm still waiting. Because I went on to justify why I made the statements that I
But is he still waiting for...
No, he said after 7 days if I didn't apologize.
Uh-huh.
Many 7 days have passed.
Okay, so there's not been any follow-up since his first demand that you retract and so on.
Right.
Okay, so...
A demand that I made clear,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm stating again,
Yes.
that he will not get from me. Okay? So, I'm saying to you, Andre, I wish he would. Okay? I wish he would, because that would give me the justification to bring out certain things that I want to say that I cannot just say just so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And the information Andre Paul might have, that Andre Paul himself is not revealing, that I know he has. I can tell the court, I know that, because and the court will ask you to do it and you have to disclose it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So let him go ahead. I'm saying to you that I went on the show to show justification for what I said. I don't just say things just so. And that is why I've never been sued. Okay? Now, he tries to cast aspersions at me and so on, but try to, come in an indirect way and so on. I don't speak in vague, nebulous language. I'm very direct, so much so that some people say I have no diplomacy, but so be it, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, Andre, you were going back to the Carnival and the calypsonians. I'm hoping that, well, I'm not hoping, I know next year it's going to be back to what it ought to be. You're going to hear the voice of the National Trust again, okay? Doing the job that they're supposed to do. Because, Andre, whether I agree with them or not, I have no problem with them taking on the UWP government, saying that, okay, for this XYZ reason, you shouldn't put that post in the middle of the room or whatever the case might be, That is their right, that's their responsibility. Mm-hmm. If the government does not agree with them, there are channels you go through. You understand what I'm saying? Go to court. Let the court, be the arbiter and to determine whether or not you're going to go ahead. But that is important in a democracy. And it should never be that our leaders feel that they're so high and mighty that no one should question them and no one should criticize them. It should never be. And they are dismantling all the checks and balances of democracy in St. Lucia to make them accountable, okay, and to take them on in terms of the things that they do in this country. These are not genuine people who want to uphold democracy. And I will say that any day and every day about the St. Lucia Labour Party. That's another reason why you have to get rid of that government. And so now that our calypsonians are compromised, the United Workers' Party has to double its efforts because they're on their own. I must say the general public is picking up now. I'm hearing the voices of many people. Congratulations, bravo to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Become more boisterous and more emboldened in taking on the government that you pay to serve you. You are the boss. So you ought to be able to speak to them. And when you cannot speak to them, you must make them pay. And that is my position. I want to, again, congratulate the United Workers' Party for the team that they have put together. And already I've heard some of the newcomers speaking out on some burning issues. I mean, I didn't even mention Banans Bay.
Just before you continue, just go back to the Calypso issue. Mm-hmm. Mr. Brown, T.C. Brown, he has a song called My Choice.
My Choice.
Now he placed second.
He placed second.
What's your take on that?
Well, I'm happy he didn't win. I mean,
that goes without saying.
And T.C. Brown came out and yes, these guys has his choice and he has an entitlement and a right to his choice.
No, I'm talking about the fact that he placed second.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, normally songs that are complimentary of the incumbent don't really make it per se.
Well, so we have seen a departure from that. We have seen a departure from that. There was Mr. Brown, there was Juice Man, there was Educator, quite a few of them who actually made it to the finals.
Yes.
Educator placed, Mr. Brown placed.
Exactly.
Now, I am not casting aspersions on anybody, but it'll be interesting to find out who are the judges. Okay? And I wouldn't be surprised knowing how the extent and effort that the St. Lucia Labour Party put in terms of hijacking institutions and organizations, whether they have not hijacked the whole Calypso fraternity or to the point of influencing judges as well. Okay? Understand one thing. There's a lot of money going around right now. Not just because there's an impending election, but when you look at the CIP and all of that, Andre, you think all the money that is not accounted for just went up in the sky? You think somebody burnt it? It's there, We just don't know where it is. Your guess is as good as mine, Andre.
Certainly not in my pocket.
No, certainly not in mine. And your guess is as good as mine. Now, I'll tell you something. I want to touch on that whole CIP thing as well. Now, before I go to the CIP thing, there was this... Now, Richard Frederick is fond of threatening people. And any St. Lucian who knows Richard Frederick know what I'm talking about. Even his friends, even those who are sucking up to him, know what I'm talking about. Because even they are threatened to stay in line and to fall in line. Okay? And if you are afraid of Richard Frederick, intimidation is one of his main tactics. Okay? He will intimidate you and force you to fall in line and so on. So, there are a few people who have taken on Richard Frederick, like Minerva Ward. Okay? Since he became minister, that's one of the first persons who actually took him on head on. Oh, he couldn't deal with that. Two things. That's a woman. And I am Richard Frederick. How dare you? When he realized by being abusive and making all kind of crass gutter statements about her, that couldn't stop her. He decided, okay, he's going to pull another card. He's lawyer, honcho lawyer, he's going to sue her. He took her to court. Well, the case was heard in court. And the case was dismissed. So let me translate that to you now. Richard Frederick lost. Okay, the case dismissed thing, that's court language. Okay, you're talking to a layman now, Andre. Richard Frederick lost. Minerva won the case. And you know what, to add insult to injury, I know that must be burning him. He has to pay Minerva's lawyers. He has to pay costs. Okay? That is because Richard...
I'm curious, is it a hefty sum?
I'm not sure what the sum is, but I'll find out.
Okay.
I can easily find out. And he now has to pay all the legal costs that Minerva incurred and face the embarrassment of taking someone to court for speaking truth to you.
So let me ask you, how does this system work? If he accused her of something, obviously this has affected her image and so on, right, her reputation.
No, he's claiming she accused him of something.
Say again?
He's the one who sued her.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So in terms of compensation for her, for what she has gone through, there's no compensation?
Well, she would have to put a counter sue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which I don't think she did. Okay, so at the end of the day, that's an embarrassment for Richard. Because first of all, Andre, as a politician, as a leader, as an elected official, you're under greater scrutiny than the rest of us. You have to understand that. And that gives people a license to say far more about you and to you than they would to an ordinary person. He has to understand that. But the big mighty Richard, the big bad bully that he is, you cannot take him on unless you're saying something complimentary about him. Well, so he took her to court. And the only problem I have with Minerva, I'll tell you that straight, and I'm going to say it on air. Minerva, I suspect you have deprived me of an opportunity there. Because having embarrassed and humbled Richard the way that you did, he ain't going to go further. Because he wanted to come at me too. But I guess he's going to check himself now because Minerva jammed his brakes, That's the only problem, but regret I have about your situation, Minerva. So, but bravo to you. And that should be an encouragement to others not to be fearful of speaking, especially when you're speaking truth. Do not be afraid of people by virtue of their positions when their position depends on your power, because they don't really have power. The power is with the people, and that will be demonstrated.
So what was, just refresh our memory, what was the case against Minerva?
I don't know what statement Minerva made. I just read, I didn't go into the details, I just read the outcome of the case and that he is supposed to pay costs and so on. I actually said I'll call Minerva, because I'll not call Richard. I know Richard is yearning for me to call him. Richard claimed the other day I called his show and he called in a number I've not had since, maybe 2012 or so.
So the person he's saying that called him, the person actually spoke?
No, I don't know. He said the person tried to call his show to disturb him and disrupt him because the person knows that he was.
Oh, and he says that's your number.
And he on air saying that's my number. So I just tell Richard, don't flatter yourself. I don't know, what am I calling Richard for? I'm going to say publicly what I have to say about Richard. I don't care about Richard. I'm going to call Richard for what? You know? And so, you know, I don't know what it was exactly he sued her for, but the court let him know that, you know, as usual, as always.
He didn't have a case against us.
You know. But, Andre, there's another case I want to talk about, I want to bring up. Day before yesterday, today's Thursday, Tuesday, Alan Chasney was in court on the CIP matter, which includes Ernest Healy. And Alan Chasney, as we know, filed an injunction. Now, I made some notes on that matter.
Again, sorry. Refresh our memories, please, in terms of the injunction.
Right.
Yes.
The injunction was filed by Alan Chasney. Should I say against the CIP unit, but obviously is the minister and the CEO who would have to answer. You know, and it was one, to stop the illegal sale of discounted passports, which is contrary to the laws of St. Lucia.
What's a discounted passport?
Okay, so if the passport is supposed to cost $200,000,
okay, discounted.
They sell it to you at $100,000.
Right.
That is illegal. You're not supposed to do that. So you're breaking the law. Now, Alan Chasney deemed that the law has been broken, and Andre, I'm not even giving Alan Chasney credit for that. As a leader of the opposition, he's supposed to do on behalf of the people. Okay? He took on the matter, not just come in and beat his mouth like I forget I'm not a politician anymore. Like politicians always do. Just talk, cast aspersions, make allegations, unsubstantiated, no evidence, or nothing like that. He went as far as taking it to court. Okay? I respect that. Well, win or lose. Okay? I respect that because it means you're serious about what you're saying and you believe in what you're saying. You put your money where your mouth is. Now, by the way, talking about putting your money where your mouth is actually his money. Now, I think that's one of the flaws in our system of government. And even if it is the UWP in office tomorrow, I think they should put things in place so that if the leader of the opposition, who is actually officially a part of government, okay, wants to take on a matter in the public interest like this here, especially if it's not spurious, if it's not, trivial, if it, they should be funded by the state, just as Ernest Healy and the CEO and the Attorney General's office will be funded by us taxpayers for that matter, to defend that matter. Because here you are, Alan Chasney taking his personal funds to take that case against the CIP unit. Now understand, so if he's successful, okay, the court will say that was wrong, or I do not know what the punitive measures are. If they are, Alan Chasney gains nothing personally. But you and I, as St. Lucians, well, he as a St. Lucian would possibly gain, but not directly. You and I, as St. Lucians, would benefit because the next passport they're going to sell, they're going to have to sell it at the right price, which is more money. Okay, provided that the money comes to us. That's very important.
So the government doesn't have the flexibility of selling what you call discounted passports. There's no flexibility as far as the rules and regulations apply.
No, you have, if you want to change the price, there's a process you have to go through. You cannot just allow agents to discount the price because it is enshrined in law that is the price. That is the price it has to be. You have to go through the process to change it if you have to. You can change it, but you have to go through the process.
So in the case there with the leader of the opposition, what was the discounted price for the passport? Any idea?
I'm not sure. I don't want to misquote. I think at one point it was supposed to be 200,000, I think, and they brought 200,000 and so on. But the important thing is that the CIU, which is the CIP unit, okay, the CIP unit and Ernest Hiller were aware and in fact facilitated that, because you can go and sell your passport for how much you want, the citizenship for how much you want, but we are the ones issuing the passport, you know. So if we do not facilitate it, it cannot work, you know. So they were aware and they facilitated it. 2, Alan Chasney, as leader of the opposition, challenged the legality of the infrastructure fund. Now, the infrastructure fund, you know, there is the real estate where they build a hotel and give them so many passports. The hotel is theirs and whatever, but some of the money is used and so on. There's the infrastructure part where they'll tell you, I'll build a hospital, I'll build a road, I'll build a school, I'll build whatever you ask them to build. And you give them passports, okay? And with the proceeds from those passports, they use that money to build it. But of course, if 2 passports is going to build the road, you probably give them 3 passports, so that extra is theirs. But hear that. St. Lucia gave Galaxy, okay, 6,000 passports, okay, to sell at 100,000 a passport, which gives you 600,000.
And by the way, that's still the discounted rate, right? The 100,000. Is that the still?
No, it's not. That wasn't.
So that was changed at that point in time?
No, that was another program, okay? The discounted thing was the citizenship and I think, what was it? I don't know if it's the real estate or one of them, but this one is a new one that they introduced.
Oh.
And
okay.
The agreement was that they would give them 6,000 passports at $100,000. That was the agreement. And when they sell the 600,000 passports, they would make
600,000.
6,000. When they make the 6,000 passports, they would make $600,000 US. But they would give us infrastructure to the tune of $100,000 US. Now, let me slow down here now for you to understand what I'm telling you, because I can see you frowning already as if what I'm saying does not make sense. It does not make sense to me either. I'm just telling you what the situation is. 6,000 passport at $100. 100,000
right.
US dollars. Galaxy would have sold those 6,000 passports and made $600,000. So there is $600,000. Galaxy will now build, well, they mentioned roads and housing. So whatever the project you ask them to do, they would either build houses or build roads to the tune of $100,000. The question you want to ask me now, Andre, is what happens to the balance, the $500,000? That is the question I cannot answer. And you know why I cannot answer it? Because our government is not accounting to us. Now, the leader of the opposition cannot answer it either. And that's why he took them out of the court, for those questions to be answered. So, he challenged, another reason why he took them to court, he challenged the legality of the infrastructure fund, because the proper legal framework is not in place, first of all. Now, you have different programs under the citizenship by investment. There's real estate, like I said, there's infrastructure, there's, all kind of program. But it must be set up through a process which includes going to Parliament and passing the requisite laws and so on. They did not do that, okay? And so the legal framework was not in place, but they went ahead with the infrastructure program anyway. Okay? That's the government accusing people of illegalities. Okay? This is critical as we are talking about the development of capital works, okay, of capital projects or state assets. So it's not just personal thing or anything. We're talking about state assets and capital works. So it is important that the proper procedures are put in place, including how contracts are awarded, Andre, because government has its processes, its procedures as to how contracts are awarded, ensuring that it's in compliance with our Finance Act and all of those things. So all of those things that are going on, that is happening, fellows are doing what they want in this country, okay? Because there's nobody to say anything. Well, I'm thankful that the opposition, apart from saying something, bringing it to the government's attention, realizing that the government is just ignoring them and going along their merry way, the leader of the opposition, at his own personal cost, took the matter to court to file an injunction. There is, like I said, there's also the breach of public procurement rules, whereby Ernest Healy has usurped the jurisdiction of the Minister of Works, that is Stevenson King. Oops. Sorry about that. I didn't put my phone on silent. Okay, so he has in effect usurped the role of Stevenson King to award contracts to Galaxy for development of roads, whereas he has no jurisdiction and has not followed public procurement rules and procedures. So that is illegal as well. So the leader of the opposition took them to court for that, and it's for the court to establish and determine whether the leader of the opposition's claim are legitimate and just. Okay. There are clandestine and murky and obscure means in which the award of the Galaxy Public Works contract has been made, and clearly this indicates why there is no adherence to public procurement rules, and it is required that in a public interest, okay, note, King is silent on the fact he has not said anything, he has not made any comments or anything like that. Okay. Now, I wrote those things down because I want to make sure I go through it for the public to understand, and I know people will be calling in on that. Because I listened to HTS, Andre, and there's some e-poll thing. And I do not know if it's just coincidental or if every single person that was interviewed did not understand what was going on and had only heard from the St. Lucia Labour Party what was going on, quoting Labour Party lines that Alan Chasney, first of all, is an enemy of progress. He's trying to hijack, and obstruct development. So he's trying to stop the projects that are going on.
So those were the comments of the people on the e-poll.
And these are the only comments that were played. I don't know, they never interviewed anybody like me. When I say like me, not me necessarily, but someone who thinks like me or is informed as I am. Okay? Now, it's also interesting too that Stanley Lucien or any of the others at HTS were not sufficiently informed to know that there were breaches of the law that was taking place, and that is why Alan Chasney put the injunction. The question is like this: what is your view about something to that effect, like Alan Chasney's injunction against the government of St. Lucia, against the CIP? You understand what I'm saying? They did not point out why the injunction. And when you hear what I'm saying there right now, you realize there are legitimate reasons and concerns why we would raise.
So the vast majority of the people who are weighing in on the question for the e-poll, they were basically repeating a lot of what
Labour Party propaganda
has been saying.
Call it what it is, Labour Party propaganda.
Okay. I don't know. I as the producers of that e-poll, if I were producing it, I'd be very, very concerned. Exactly. Even to the point maybe not even having a broadcast.
Well, that's the level of the objectivity of our media. Because
obviously not everybody would agree, obviously. So it's just that maybe on that particular day, these were the people who were responding. So I'm saying, if I were the producer, I'd be very concerned about that, to the point where I probably would not even broadcast that thing.
My listeners are taking me on again, Andre chastising me for my maths. I said 600,000 is 6 million. Okay? All right? So, let me tell you something. Listeners, I made a declaration from very early, Mrs. Bristol, deceased, was my math teacher. She'll never tell you that I was any great math student. She'll never say that. So anyway, but I stand corrected. It was 6 million. So let me read here. I actually have it written down, just on the top of my head, giving them figures. So another reason for the injunction, it was to challenge the rationale for giving Galaxy the US $600 million worth of passport sales, only to give St. Lucians 100 million. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Guy Joseph has just walked in.
Yes, and we kept the chair specifically for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
So I mentioned to Andre that Guy would probably be coming in, but I tried calling you this morning, Guy. I didn't get you, so I wasn't sure.
Well, I was beginning to wonder because I've tried getting him already.
Oh, okay.
I've messaged, I've called,
Right.
and he's not responding.
So welcome.
So we're the
Busy
same.
morning.
Yeah.
Busy morning for me.
So welcome.
Thank
I'm
you.
just discussing the injunction filed by the leader of the opposition against the CIP unit, which means Ernest Healy and MacLeod Emmanuel, who is the CEO. So here, it was also a challenge. Okay, they challenged the rationale. Now, because Andre, you and I agree does not make sense. And even when my maths is wrong, it still does not make sense, okay? But the actual figures are, let's correct it. They were giving Galaxy $600 million worth of passport sales, only to give St. Lucians $100 million in infrastructure project. So we would decide where that $100 million go, and I heard them mention housing, I heard them mention roads, and so on. Whatever it is, okay, that will be to the benefit of St. Lucians. But the is what the leader of the opposition is questioning. $100,000 over projects, and you're giving them
100 million.
Sorry, I keep saying 100,000. Andre, I'm a small time fella. You know, millions not in my realm. So forgive me. I never count millions. So, but it is actually 100 million customers. I stand corrected again. I keep making that mistake. $100 million worth of projects for $600 million worth of passports to be sold. So, Andre, they give, let us assume it's houses and roads, they give you $100 million worth of that. Be happy.
Yeah.
We can do with it. What happens to the extra $500 million that is
US.
being raised from our passports?
That's 500 million US, right?
US dollars. Okay? $500 million that Galaxy received for the sales of the rest of the passports, our passports. What happens to it? Now, Andre, I don't expect...
Let me put that in perspective.
Great.
500 million is 1.3 billion
EC dollars.
EC dollars.
Right.
That's almost the entire budget of St. Lucia for a year.
Well, these days it's just a little over half of the budget.
So you look at the situation and you would appreciate that nobody, no bank, no institution, no investment gives you a return of 600%. And the thing about it is, Galaxy gets to choose the contractors. So it's not that the money is never given into the consolidated fund. The money never comes into the possession of the government. Galaxy, the Ministry of Infrastructure was supposed to identify the projects.
Sorry, you're talking about the 100 million, right?
The 100 million.
Okay.
Identify projects to that value. So they bypass all the procurement rules of government, where you may have to tender and you may have to agree that so Galaxy gets the opportunity to choose the contractors, I guess based on the recommendations of the government. So can you imagine a minister wants to give a friend a $20 million job? They can just call Galaxy and say, hey, that's the person I want to get that job. But where it gets worse, Andre, is that since the EU had raised the issues about the value of the passports, and the price has gone up to $250,000. 250,000 per passport. Galaxy now, all the new passports that would be sold at the $250,000. And when the government wrote to ask Galaxy whether they could get an increase in the allocation, since Galaxy now is getting more than 2 times the amount of money they should get. Galaxy said the contract had already contemplated that, so no way. So we still get the 100 million, even if and that 100 million was when the passports was being sold at 100,000 per passport. So Galaxy is likely to make 2.5 times the amount of money. So instead of making 600 million and giving us 100 million, they can make 1.5 billion and still give us 100 million. That 1.5 billion is US, not EC. So the judicial review that the leader of the opposition filed, he filed an injunction. He filed for an injunction. He cannot file an injunction. Only the court can decide that there is sufficient evidence to put an injunction and cause a review of the program. And it was primarily on the basis of the discounting, because there's a legislated price. We went to Parliament and we agreed that the value of a passport for the donation was 100,000. For the real estate, if it was 200 or 300,000, as the case may be. Once that is passed in the Parliament, it becomes legal. It's the law. And it does not allow anybody the right to discount, to say, okay, the actual price is 300 million or 300,000, but we'll sell it for you for 200,000 because we are already making so much profit, so we can afford to discount. Galaxy should never have that leverage over the passport of St. Lucia.
Okay, so Andre, I actually made some notes here, because it seems as if CIP is a dead issue, and it has just resurfaced because of that court case. It is not a dead issue. And I think many of us have not fully understood all the intricacies of that whole program. And besides, our government is not providing information. They are not transparent on anything, let alone CIP. And so the leader of the opposition has taken the matter, and then they out there with their propaganda, making it seem as if the leader of the opposition is trying to affect progress in the country, is trying to, prevent projects from being done and all of that. Whereas, in fact, the Prime Minister is looking out for the interests, the leader of the opposition is looking out for the interests of St. Lucia and St. Lucians, ensuring that we do not give away, our country to foreigners. Maybe with a little kickback to the people who are giving it away. But that St. Lucians benefit to the extent that they should from what is going on. Okay? So, in fact, he is in our best interest. And whereas the government of St. Lucia is supposed to account to us, they are not. Not even the report they are putting in Parliament when it's supposed to be. Okay? And so on. So I wrote a few points there. I've already spoken about the illegal discounting of the passports. I spoke about the challenge about the illegality of infrastructure fund not going through the proper legal framework. I talk about the breach of the procurement processes for those government projects to take place that is not being observed. But I have a few more points that I just want to go through, and I want to go through this one again because I made an error. While I have 600 million written down, I was saying 600,000, and a listener had to bring it to my attention that my figures are wrong. Okay, but I was saying another challenge was against the rationale for giving Galaxy US, and it's important that Guy came and said US, because when you talk about $500 million, it's $500 million US dollars, which is more than $1 billion EC dollars. Okay, so it challenged the rationale for giving Galaxy $600 million worth of passport sales, only to give St. Lucians $100 million, okay, for infrastructure project. Now, as Guy indicated, they identified housing projects and road projects, but they will focus. We heard more about the housing projects, okay?
But was the housing on that to me the housing was on the BMAX?
On the BMAX, yes.
Because the Rockall housing project should have opened in June.
Okay, but the Galaxy thing was that there would be $100 million worth of projects, okay? And there will be a balance of $500 million US dollars, which is approximately 1.3 billion EC dollars. That is unaccounted for. We're not being told anything about. We're also challenging BMAX.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Apart from the leader of the opposition, has anybody else, the
Bar Association,
the Bar Association, the Chamber of Commerce,
no.
whoever, nobody else is asking anything about that?
Nobody else.
You know why?
Yeah.
Ralph said it.
The money is sweet.
The Prime Minister of St. Vincent, who is not part of the CIP, said what he thinks of his colleagues in the OECS who is selling CIP. He said the lawyers are the ones benefiting from it, so they're not going to say anything. The government is the one running the program. So it is something that is worth looking into, because we may play no mind to it today, Andre. And we may think that St. Lucia is being, when we say St. Lucia is being sold out, we need to understand the sellout is not just when you sell property of St. Lucia, you know. It is when you sell citizenship of St. Lucia. And under a United Workers' Party government, we only sold about 820-something CIP passports in 5 years, you know, Andre. 5 years of the UWP government. Less than 1,000 CIP passports. In 4 years of labor, we are hearing of over 11,000 files, which can amount to 44,000 passports. So, very soon, you can have a quarter of the population of St. Lucia being CIP citizens. And these people are not coming empty-handed. They can come in and take over almost everything in this country because they have the financial backing. So when we talk about that, people need to understand the longer-term implications of our CIP, our citizenship. And what did the minister tell us? The money does not belong to us. How can I sell a product that is mine?
It doesn't belong to me.
And the proceeds from that product does not belong to the people of St. Lucia. So, Andre, I am still baffled by this. My Spider and I, we were in cabinet. We never supported the idea of CIP. That is why we had put the sovereign fund in place, so that the money could go in there, so you can be the agent to help sell the passport, but we should loan you the money. You cannot sell my passport, build a hotel, and you own the hotel. But it is the citizenship of St. Lucia that has been given away. Because we have to say we gave it away. Because what are we benefiting? A hotel? So what about all the other developers who have built hotels with their own resources? Take Sandals as an example. Take Royalton. Take all the other hotels that have established here with their own finances. They took their loans and they built a hotel. But now you giving CIP passports to people to sell. When they sell the passport, and if you give them just the value of the hotel, so take the Galaxy project, where we give them, let's say, 1,000 passports to sell, that they would raise $210 million for the project, and they would have to put in 90 million themselves. Labour Party came in and gave them another 5,000 passports and said that because of inflation, the price of the hotel doubled from 300 million to $750 million. So St. Lucians are just sitting by and not saying anything and saying, oh, we don't care about that. Upamila about Sahodia. But là ka ywe moun ni pli doa set lisi passe ou because you ni pli l'argent passe ou. And when you tell them, man, you are a foreigner, what you doing in my country? How you feel you can treat me like that? You know what they'll pull out? You can hear the passport set lisien yo, et you can di mwen san set lisien mem kon.
I'm trying to understand this whole thing, Mr. Joseph and Mr. Montoute. Okay, let's just assume the United Workers' Party were in office and you had done the same thing. Let's just assume that, huh? You had done the same thing. You sold how many passports? Thousands of passports. And there's this $1.7 billion, which is supposed to be, well, this is what was garnered from this arrangement, right? How would it have been different? Because Dr. Hila is saying, well, the money does not belong to us. So, assuming you were in office at that time, what would be different? How would you have handled the party or the government handle a situation like that if you were in office?
First of all, they would never get 5,000 passports to sell. But we were in not if we were in government, Andre.
We were in
government.
And dealt with the same galaxy.
And for the same galaxy and the same project, we gave less than 1,000 passports. So it's not a matter. You see, you're talking about it as a hypothetical situation. But we were. What we are not understanding is how the same hotel that we gave 1,000 passports for, Labour came in and gave an additional 5,000. How? So if UWP was in office, that would never happen. What we had given is what they would get, nothing more. And it was based on the value of the project. So a percentage, and we said, if you're going to sell our CIP passports and you're going to be part of it, then you have to put in, as they say, skin in the game. You must have skin in the game. So we said, if the hotel is costing $300 million, you have to put in 90. We allow you to sell passports for the 210 million. So you have equity in there. But Labour Party came in and gave them another 5,000. So, Andre, it's not if.
Okay, but
when UWP was in office, that will never happen.
But Andre, if I can, for the benefit of our listeners, let me just expound on the whole CIP thing, on why the leader of the opposition took the matter to court. And I made some notes there that I just want to go through. So, and afterward we'll have our discussion on the whole issue. And of course, at some point we'll open the lines and so on. Another reason why the leader of the opposition took the matter to court, was also challenging the granting to BMAX of US $62.8 million, okay, for a US $23 million housing project. Okay, so you heard what BMAX will be doing a housing project where in
Rock
Hall. Okay, so BMAX were given $62.8 million worth of passports. And the housing project would cost $23 million US, right? And that would be in Rock Hall in the Prime Minister's constituency. Where is the oversight and where is the accountability for the surplus? Again, Andre, you keep asking me about the surplus, what happens to it? That's what we're asking. Where is the accountability and what happens to the balance? Because 62.8 million, you take away 23 million, again, my math is not too good, but that's about almost $40 million left. Almost $40 million left. So what happens? Okay, what is happening to that extra $40 million that is left? Okay, which is, $40 million is what? Roughly about 100 million EC? 100 million EC unaccounted for. We want to know. All right. The next thing is the leader of the opposition was requiring of them an audit by an impartial international audit firm. So if you have nothing to hide, you're above board, you want to be accountable. I'm not taking your word, Andre. Let an international international audit firm of high repute, let them come in and audit what is taking place in terms of the operations and finances of the CIP into the issues that we mentioned there above. Okay? Now, so as it stands now, Andre, Galaxy has sold more than US $1 billion worth of citizenships. Over $1 billion US worth of citizenship. Right? That is our passports. And they don't like to have me say that, but it's in fact our passports they sell. And they sell citizenship, not passport. What symbolizes your citizenship is your passport. Okay? And that was done for a hotel. Okay, remember, quite apart from the infrastructure thing we're talking about there was the real estate project where they gave them about 6,000 passports from which they would raise over $1 billion US. And from that $1 billion US, they were supposed to build a hotel, like Guy indicated to you, that cost about $300 million. Again, take 300 million from 1 billion, you have a balance of 700 million US dollars, Andre. Now, that balance, okay, I can understand if you say, well, you don't have to say that because the $300 million comes from the sale of our passport and it's their hotel. So that 700 million should be ours. Andre, that 700 million US dollars covers our budget for the year. That is more than 2 billion EC dollars. Now, if we had that 2 billion EC dollars, we don't have to take loans. We don't have to tax people through their noses. We don't have to put the gas price so high. We don't have to put 2.5% on our people. So if you care about the people and so on, there, you could have eased the pressures and strains and the high cost of living and inflation that affecting our people there right now. So we want to know where is that surplus 700 million for just that real estate program alone. 700 million US dollars, about 2 billion EC dollars. All right. So, very interestingly, Andre, soon after the leader of the opposition, Honorable Alan Chasney, filed for the injunction, Ernest Healy claimed that they terminated the Galaxy and BMAX contracts for the infrastructure program. They terminated it. Galaxy, however, as Guy mentioned earlier, Galaxy, however, challenged them and said to them, no, we have a contract. You're in no position unilaterally to cancel that contract, and you cannot change. And in fact, they said they had anticipated a situation like that, and they had put in a clause to take care of that.
Galaxy?
Galaxy. And guess what the clause says? If there is any change in the price, that is, the price increases, the balance comes to them. You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, when I look at it, that one-sided thing, it does not make sense, Andre, at least not to me. So the people who entered into that agreement, that arrangement, need to come and explain to us. And like Dr. Kenny Anthony would say, and I'll quote him, make it make sense. Does not make sense. So we see that they claim they terminated the contract, but Galaxy have challenged them and said they do not have the right to terminate the contract unilaterally. Galaxy actually said so in a letter to them. And I have a copy of that letter. So, not 1 cent, Andre, as we speak, not 1 cent from the infrastructure fund is accounted for, and none of it is in St. Lucia. So you cannot go and show me a block, a wall, or anything like that to tell me that's money from the infrastructure program. Not 1 cent. Galaxy, you're wondering where it is. Galaxy is holding all of it in their personal account. Again, Dr. Anthony, ask the question. Make it make sense. So, after all the money Galaxy and certain hand-picked CIP agents have made from the CIP program, we do not have the roads, we do not have the housing, we do not have the hotel. Okay? None of those things that we're supposed to have as development. And the excess monies, the billions that would have been raised, the excess billions, on top of what it would have cost to make the hotel, build the roads, do the housing, and so on. The excess millions, nobody knows anything about it. Andre, and you're trying to tell me the leader of the opposition, obviously the leader of the opposition is doing that on behalf of St. Lucians as a member of his party. Now, Guy is a deputy, he'll be more intimately familiar, because they would have discussed that at the leadership level and they make the decision to pursue it. I want to take this moment to say bravo to you, Honorable Alan Shasney. This marks a change in the approach of politics in St. Lucia. I want to say that because if Alan Shasney is going to take the government to court to account for those things, because he can just make some noise and say he raised questions about it and keep his money in his pocket, especially since government, and I'm hoping that when the UWP government comes into office, we're not giving Alan Shasney 1 cent interest, but we're refunding him his money. Because he did that in the public interest and for the benefit of this country. Okay? And it should not have to take someone who can afford to do it. All it should take is someone with a conscience, okay, and the integrity to do it. And you know what I'm happy about? Alan Shasney knows that the fact that he has gone so far, Guy Joseph knows, Dominic Fede and the rest of the UWP know that the fact that they have gone so far as to take the matter to court, they cannot come in there tomorrow and do the same. Because the precedent has been set. And you know another thing St. Lucians do not know? Guy Joseph knows, he was part of it. They passed a law saying, Andre, that it can be doomsday after you, Andre, did what you did. There's no statute of limitation. They can still take you to court. So even if you, old and grey and in your diapers, you still have to pay if it's discovered then. Okay? You know what that does? Put checks in place to make people think twice. Those who would be coming in with corrupt intentions to think twice about doing the things that they do. Okay? So these fellows are just running amok, and St. Lucians are not seeing that. To the extent that St. Lucians will come and tell me, oh, Alan Shasney is against progress and so on. You know how much more progress we can experience from the sales of all of those passports? Guy told you, they sold about 800 passports to Galaxy to build a $300 million hotel. Obviously, 800 passports would not be enough to complete the hotel, but Galaxy would have to put the rest, because after all, the hotel belongs to them. And to be honest, if you were Andre at that time, I say, what? We're giving them fellas all that money and the hotel is theirs. But then again,
that's the law that was in place, but we did not.
But then again, Andre, you know what was so said to me, which made sense? Boy, going to create some jobs, we don't have, so sometimes, Andre, it's not like you want to give your thing away for a jumpy price, but sometimes you're so damn broke, Andre, and you're selling that t-shirt. I will tell you, nah, I'm not giving you the $100 that is worth, I only give you 70 and so on. So sometimes that's the case. But that wholesale sellout that we see here, that cannot make sense. It just cannot make sense.
So is Dr. Hiller wrong in saying that the money belongs to Galaxy? Is he wrong in saying that?
He may not be wrong, because if he agrees that it goes to them, it is theirs. But why would you give them our money? Explain that to us.
But more so too, how could he make a decision like that?
How could he make that decision? So that's why I tell you, the procedures, the legal framework and all of that for those decisions were bypassed. He could not have done that. And if he was going to do that, Andre, the leader of the opposition should know, because they should have come to Parliament with it to let us know. So when I say leader of the opposition, I might not be listening, but it's their business to listen, to know, and to alert us that for us to express the requisite outrage that cannot be done. You understand what I'm saying? And that is why, Andre, I always say when people harbor secrets, it's because they have something to hide. And that's why they do not want to speak on the CIP program. They do not want to divulge information, and they're so reluctant to put the report that is required by law in Parliament when it's due. Yes.
So what I want to say, just to add on what Spider has said there, and to clarify, we're not going to pay back Alan Shasney for the money that he has spent, but we are going to put measures in place where citizens of this country who feel that the government is doing something to them that is not proper should be able to take legal recourse against the government whether it be UWP or SLP or any other government. Because, you see, we don't have the civil society groups who will come and challenge bad decisions by government. And so governments on both sides get away with a lot of things that the citizens are not fully on board with. Andre, because we sit in a cabinet doesn't mean that each one individually agrees with everything, you know. But there's collective responsibility. So once the majority makes a decision, you have to abide by the decision of the majority. And you cannot go out openly and speak against it because this is the government that you are part of. So we have to have measures in place to put checks and balances against what government is going to do. You know how much it is to take a legal matter to get, and when you're going up against a government who would hire the best lawyers from overseas, they don't even use the local lawyers, you know. They use the best legal minds from overseas combined with local lawyers. So who is the average Joe Blow who can go and challenge the government? They know it's you've lost from before you started. And that is why governments, and I'm not saying the Labour Party, I'm saying that the method of governance in this country, we need some changes in these areas. So the mechanisms will be, when I took the government to court, can you imagine on the Boundaries Commission? Can you imagine cost was awarded to the government for me to pay the government lawyers, and I had to appeal the case? So, and I had a reason to believe that there was biasness because one of the judges who sat among them, one of the lawyers representing the government had represented in some divorce case before, but I only got to know after, so I could not have object if I knew at the time. And that's why when my matter was going before the Privy Council, the CCJ with MBC, I objected to the lawyers, the judges, because I said the lawyer for the defendant was sitting on the panel that selected the judges. You see, when you're in a small society, you have to understand the intricacies of the system. And so what the government is doing, if the government is doing everything above board, they should welcome a judicial review. They should welcome the opportunity to get the courts to opine on it and say, hey, these fellas are doing everything well. Why are they afraid? Because there's something to hide. I always tell them, I'm waiting for them to take me to court. I'm waiting, I'm making myself available, I'm open to, because I have nothing to hide, Andre. There's nothing for me to worry about. Now, there's something they told me you are discussing. I wanted to ask you about Steve and what I said about Steve.
Yes.
What was that about?
Okay. Kandre, could you just remind the listeners what it was?
Yes, well, there was
and let's say what Guy has to say in his defense.
Yes, there was a clip.
I told them already I'm speaking for them, you know. They're more articulate than I am. Go and defend yourself.
There was a clip that was played yesterday. I think you were at a political meeting, I imagine, a political gathering.
Sunday Live.
Right, and you were talking about Stephenson King and how he had started off as a messenger. Okay, and you sort of said it in a derogatory way, like you were looking down at the work he was doing. You even added by saying he's still doing the same messenger work and so on, this sort of thing. And I was kind of likening that to a situation where the Labour Party were talking about during the time of the horse racing issue, they were saying St. Lucian should not be, picking up horse, whatever, right? And I was saying that I didn't agree with those statements at all, right? When those statements are made, because people shouldn't look down at people in terms of what it is that they do for a living. So then I said the same thing for you, that I felt that you shouldn't have gone there.
Okay. Andre, This is the guy, Joseph, who by the Labour Party was called a bus driver, a poodle, uneducated, unable to speak English. There's not a label that the Labour Party did not attach to Guy Joseph. And they did the same to Stevenson King. You see, clippings of news, they take what is convenient to carry their story, and they cut out the preamble and the tail end, and they take the middle part to send the wrong message. So I was not speaking about Stevenson King in a derogatory manner, even if he deserves that. And when
no, not about Stevenson King in a derogatory manner. The work he was doing.
No, so
as a
no. Listen to what I said.
Yeah.
Only
as a messenger.
Only the UWP. Only a UWP would take you from a messenger to a prime minister. That was the mainstay of my statement. That the UWP took you from being a messenger to a prime minister. I was simply saying Labour Party would never do that for you. For that matter, Labour Party was the one who named him the messenger in the 1987 elections. Okay. So I was repeating what the Labour Party said about him. And I was saying this on the basis of what he said on the platform of the Labour Party in the town hall meeting in Dennery North, where he had the worst things to say about UWP. Ekpudi, Sapa Flambeau, encore, Sapa Flambeau, John Compton, that's not this, that's not that. That's what I was responding to, Andre. So, and I was saying, the same things they said about him, nothing has changed in terms of his qualifications, as far as I know.
Well,
So-
I just want to correct you. His certificates you're talking about, he now has a marriage certificate.
Yes.
He's married now.
So, and I said that. I said, so today, Labour Party hails him as senior minister. Do you know Kenny Anthony refused to call Stevenson King prime minister for the entire almost 5 years he was prime minister? One time we were for independence, we were on the waterfront. And you know what? Kenny was the first person to speak. So we say he has to address the protocol. You know what Kenny said? I will adopt the protocol that has been established, and no protocol had been established yet. You see, Andre, I don't pretend.
But Mr. Joseph, let me just ask you. I'm sure when those statements were being made about you, the whole bus driver thing and so on, right? The poodle issue, right? Unless, of course, I guess you'll tell me you have a very tough back, you can take that kind of thing. But if maybe those statements did touch you in a way that you didn't appreciate, hold on. I'm saying, should you respond in kind? And this is the thing that the politicians do a lot. You respond in. I'm not talking only you. It happens all the time on both sides. One says something, and I even during my comments, I also said the sport of boxing, you're not allowed to go up, under
below
the belt. Exactly. So, and if your opponent does it, it doesn't mean that you have to do it either. You understand? Because if it's wrong,
went below the groin, not just the belt. He went below. He went below the groin to say the things he said, because you have to understand. Stevenson King has stood on the platform and say, for St. Jude, they have to go to jail. He was the prime minister in charge of St. Jude when St. Jude started. So let me tell you, Andre, if I said that about you, I would be unkind to come and say that about you, because you've given me no reason and you've not said anything. But so you going to give me blows? Every day you stand on the platform, you speak, you give me blows, and I'm supposed to just take the blows say, yeah, man, I'm tough.
That's what I'm saying.
No. So
I'm saying, I'm just asking, can't you respond without going beneath the belt? That's what I'm saying.
That's not below the belt,
If I can come in here, Guy, although really and truly, he was just making reference to what the SLP said about Steve. That he has no certificate, all he has is a book certificate, because they're attacking him on his education.
So okay. Spider, just let me.
And today he's in the ranks and so on,
Have you ever heard the Labour apologize to Stevenson King for what they said about him? Now that they've embraced him, as senior minister, and he's part of Labour Party. And you know the question I want to ask them? Philip J. Pierre continues to say he will win 17 seats when he has only 15 candidates. When the government, the minister comes there, I want you to ask them that question for me. Are they filling in a slate of 17 candidates, or are they filling in a slate of 15? And if they have 15 candidates, how they win in 17 seats? So now that's just digressing. But let's go. Andre, when you bring out a message, you take a particular path to bring out your message. I was disappointed. Steve could have parted with UWP. But don't come and pretend that UWP was a devil.
Andre.
When you were the head of that same organization. So if you want to paint a picture today, paint the picture today. But don't come and pretend that you were sent when you were there and the other people who are there are devils. I will never sit by and allow that to happen. So, I don't have issues with Steve as a person. I have issues with Steve with his politics. He chose, that's mine, he chose to go down the path. Now, you're comfortable with Labour. You said you are the best place that you should be. The same people who call you all the names and have never, I don't know if they apologize to you privately, but they have never apologized to you publicly, and they said it about you publicly. Andre, I've not heard people come and defend, how you going to look down on Guy Joseph as a buzzer? Let me tell you, there was a lecturer at Monroe College. I will not mention his name for the sake of your program. Teaching students and saying derogatory things about me, Guy Joseph, and my lack of education, and using me as a reference. And my cousin was sitting right there in the class, being lectured by a St. Lucian, a high-ranking Labour Party person. Andre, these things don't faze me, you know. You know why? Because I know who I am. I don't need somebody to validate who I am. And I'm proud of Stephenson King's achievement from coming from a messenger to being prime minister. And that is what UWP does. But if you don't start with a certain degree in Labour Party, you ain't going nowhere. That's the difference between Flabo and Labour. And that's what I was saying. Had Stephenson King not been a UWP, Labour would have never accepted him on their platform. He would never be a senior minister. You know who gave him that foundation to be where he is today? The United Workers' Party. And who did he betray? Who did he turn his back on? Who did he double cross? The UWP.
I'll have to interrupt Guy now. Andre, I'll not accept that. When I'm here alone, you open me to the callers very early, and you let Guy escape here without calls.
Whenever you're ready, it's your show.
Yeah, let's go, Guy. You have to take some calls too.
Yes, so let me just give the numbers.
Yeah.
The fixed line is 572-9710, 572-9710. That's the fixed line. Or you can WhatsApp 287-0971. WhatsApp is 287-0971. Again, the fixed line is 572-9710, 572-9710. Or you can WhatsApp 287-0971. WhatsApp is 287-0971. Okay.
Well,
okay, you can continue.
Yeah, while you are waiting.
Yes, you have a call. You have a call. Yes.
Okay. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead and make your contribution.
Good morning to you, Spider. Good morning, Mr. Joseph and Mr. Paul.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, just quickly, in the interest of time, just to put some more fire in what was going on, basically with the whole Mr. King situation. Richard Frederick was called many names by the SLP. Now he's with them. And if someone want to repeat what the very same Dr. Kenny Anthony and the team say about him, you want to take them to court. So you could see the big hypocrites. So it's like SLP is a party who would wash you as white as snow, and then you're okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have another call.
Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead, make your contribution, please.
Hello, good morning, Spider. Good morning, Mr. Joseph. Good morning,
Good morning.
Andre.
Morning, sir.
Yes. Spider, in terms of the CIP stuff, I want us to be very, very careful when we explaining the thing in terms of the information. In the beginning, you were constantly saying 6,000 passports.
Yeah, but
Well, it's not 6,000
more
passports.
than one occasion corrected that, Connor.
Yeah, no, you didn't correct it. It's
I didn't correct it?
6,000 files. No, 6,000 files, which has the capability of having 4 passports per file.
Okay, fine. Guy
So
did
it's
say that.
6,000 times 4, right? So that's what I'm
Guy
saying.
did
We
say
need
that,
to
but
get that part of it right.
Listen to me. I am
Yes.
going according to the minimum. Okay, with 6,000 passports, you get the amount I was
Yes,
talking
I
about. But
understand
if
that,
you go in
but
at
we
4,000
still have
passports,
to say-
there's a possibility of getting much more money than what I said. But at least
Right,
that
but let's
amount.
use the right terms. Let's use the right terms so that everybody is crystal clear. That is 6,000 files, which has the capability of issuing 4 passports per file.
Okay, granted.
So we get
Connor.
it clear. We get it clear.
Granted.
Now, I definitely support you on that notion that when the UWA gets into office, that they refund Mr. Shastney his lawyer fees for taking the government to court on his own money. I think it would be grossly unfair if you all get
Well,
back
I've
into
said,
office and
I've
not
said
refund
to
him.
you all
And safeguarding
No.
the public's assets.
as the deputy leader of the party, I'm telling you all that's not going to happen.
I disagree with
You,
Guy
you,
and I
you know
refute
why?
all.
You know
Mr.
why?
Joseph,
You know why I'm dealing with this? Because people will tell you Alan Shastney is just taking the government to court so he can collect money when without case. So he knows very well he's spending money that he will not get back. And I know Alan Shastney well enough. He will never claim back
Well,
these
I will advocate
resources
for it, Guy, and we're not
from
doing it
the
for Alan
government.
Chastney. I'm not doing it for Alan
Okay,
Chastney.
that's not a problem.
We're
That's not a
doing it so
problem.
that the
Whatever you
other
decided-
leader of the opposition, if he does not have the wherewithal from his pocket to take such action, that there are things in place for him to do so.
That's
That
why I
is
said we are
Yeah, but
going to
yes,
put
right.
measures in
So at
place to
least-
facilitate
At
that.
least, right. That's right. So at least if that doesn't happen on that front, that definitely something will happen in terms of legislation to make it easier for the leader of the. Because right now, when I look at the leader of the opposition, he's a toothless tiger, you know. A
Not
toothless
exactly,
tiger.
not
He
exactly. The man
has.
just
He
took a
has
man
no,
out of
no,
court.
no, but that's on his own. I'm talking about in terms of being part of government.
The position,
In terms of
the
being- in
position
terms
does
of, right,
not
the position.
allow
him to
him
do
the
anything.
latitude. There should be some funds allocated
To his
to the
office, yeah.
office of the leader of the opposition to undertake issues of national interest. And that is what I'm talking about, where citizens and the opposition should have greater leverage, because you come into government and you don't know everything and you don't learn everything overnight. But over a period of time, you get to learn and see what you can do to make St. Lucia better. We may not be the ones in opposition. Labour Party may not be. Maybe by that time, we would have gone out of the political arena. But you want to leave things better than how you found them so that your democracy can work well.
You have another call.
Yes. Okay, caller, thanks a lot. We have very little time left, so we want to get as many calls as possible. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition.
Morning.
Yeah, go ahead.
Spider, I'm a bit disappointed in the action taken by the opposition against the government in respect to the Galaxy project.
Tell me why.
I personally visited the Galaxy project in about February of this year. And when I went there, in my judgment, what I saw, knowing how much money was extended and so on, of passports and so on, to Galaxy by this government and the previous, I would have launched that case against the government, an injunction against Galaxy the day after I came from that site. Because I see that as fraud. You see what's going on there in Galaxy? I see that as fraud. I can equate that to somebody being in the state, sending down money to a contractor, coming down here after years and the foundation is not done, and you have given him $100 million to build a house for you.
Okay.
So caller,
what do you want the opposition to do?
So caller, let's put that in perspective. The power of the opposition is limited. The leader of the opposition on his own pocket has sought to do what the government should be doing. The government is the one who is charged with the responsibility of holding Galaxy accountable for the passports they have sold and for the non-implementation of the project. It is the failure of the Labour Party government to do what is necessary that has prompted the opposition to take a stance to defend St. Lucia. And he's doing that at his own expense.
And Okolo, having done that, we are hearing claims from Ernest Hille that they have in fact cancelled those contracts with BMAX and Galaxy for the infrastructure program.
And you know what? The Labour Party is accusing him of fighting the development of this country, while what he is doing is to protect the interest and the integrity of the country. So it tells you the difference between the government and the opposition. In other words, the opposition is doing a better job at governing than the government is doing a good job at governing.
I support you, but what I want, should the UWP become the next government?
When the UWP becomes the next government?
I want all the facilitators of that contract, that Galaxy and DMAX scheme, the lawyers, the bookkeepers, the accountants who are benefiting from that. I want to see all of those guys get prosecuted.
So here's what I will tell you. You remember there was a piece of, hold on. There was a piece of legislation that went to Parliament. And the leader of the opposition said what the government was doing was legalizing corruption or legitimizing corruption. Because based on the legislation that is passed, it may not be that Galaxy has done anything wrong. It is what the government has allowed Galaxy to do that they can do. Galaxy is not the law in St. Lucia. There are laws, there are rules. And I know that if planning went down to Galaxy now, they would have shut down the project. Who is the Minister of Planning? All the open sewers that is there, all the water, all the mess that is happening down there. When a little person is building a little plywood house or putting a roof for a garage by their home, planning finds themselves there to stop the project. Planning has not gone down to Galaxy to see what is happening there and to see that the project is not being implemented to the standards of planning in St. Lucia. But no, the government is the one facilitating all the illegalities that are happening.
Okay, thank you, caller. Let's see if we can try and get a couple more callers.
You have another call.
Yes. Good morning. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead and make a contribution, please.
Good morning, Mr. Montoute. Good morning, Andrew. And good morning, Mr. Joseph.
Yeah,
Good morning.
Morning to you.
I want to take this opportunity to applaud the leader of the opposition for the stand that he's taking with regards to this CIP saga or scandal. And let me remind St. Lucian that the leader of the opposition, like Mr. Montoute and Mr. Guy Joseph indicated or said, that he's taking it from his personal fund, from his pocket, so that our country, the reputation of our country can be intact. Because right now, on the international scene out there, our image is taking a battering.
And don't forget the massive resources that are not accounted for. The massive amount of resources that are not accounted for is also in question.
And juxtapose that with when you have government ministers suing you for defamation and they use the state resources, the attorney general's office, the lawyers at the attorney general's office to go after you. What does that say? Here it is that you have the leader of the opposition. They have billions and billions of dollars went missing, disappeared, no accounting. And let me remind your listeners and Andre and Mr. Joseph and Mr. Montoute that the CIP legislation mandates that Ernest Sile presents the audits, reports annually to the Parliament of St. Lucia. Consecutively, Ernest Sile have been breaking the law. The very law that he, when he was in Parliament, assisted to pass under the Kenyan administration. He is breaking that very law. The last audit or the last report that Ernest Sile pretended to give was over 6 months late. Look, we have another audit that is
Trying to make it
over
brief,
a year.
I want to get at least one more call before we end. Okay, we're running out of time.
So that tells you that this Labour Party government is lawless, and I want to applaud the leader of the opposition for taking the stance and for standing up for the people of St. Lucia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Talking
Paulo,
about lawless,
thank you.
there's also the Integrity Commission that was not constituted for almost a year. And of course, with all these things I read there about the CIP program, so in terms of corruption and breaking the law, the Labour Party takes the case.
Let's take a final call.
We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead and make a contribution, please.
Good morning to all.
Good morning.
Man, to tell you the truth, I don't know how to start. St. Lucia is in big trouble. This is a government that doesn't care about the poor people of St. Lucia. And they're talking about people, putting people first. Andre, I ordered a sneaker worth $27. I just went and picked it up and I took a receipt because I don't want people to see that man making stories. But I will send it to Spider and Guy Joseph. To clear the sneakers, $27. $188.14 to clear a sneakers, man. And you tell me you put in St. Lucian first? You telling me when crude oil was on a high, a gallon of gas was $17.50. Today, crude oil has gone rock bottom price. You still putting holes in our pocket. $16 a gallon of gas. You said to St. Lucian, you cannot help what is happening in the supermarket. Couple weeks ago, you said you'd bring down the prices on goods in the supermarket. That's a big lie by the St. Lucia Labour Party, putting the people first. You go through the supermarket, Andre, you'll still see the price rock bottom. St. Lucia has a lot of poor people, and right now they cannot go to the supermarket. Not even a pound of flour, a pound of rice, not even tuna fish they could buy. A tuna fish, Andre, is almost $5. You look at the other tuna fish, the hard tuna fish, the seabell, it's $6 something. This is a party that does not care about the people. You know what? This St. Lucia Labour Party with the CIP and all kind of things. These guys that just care about their pockets, friends, and family.
Okay, caller, we have to wrap up. We're running out of time.
Anyway,
Yeah, so
there's
thanks.
so much I could say.
Yeah,
But
thanks for your
I'll
call.
leave it for another show.
Right. Guy, we are coming to the end of the program. Is there any closing remarks?
I just wanted to say, Andre, we have some serious issues. I heard the caller there, and I have information that says that a proposal went to Cabinet to amend the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority regulations to introduce a congestion charge of $50 per container at port castries. You know, per day, I think. Yes. You know who that cost is going to be passed on? Congestion charge. Because there's equipment and there's piling, because you've gone into an arrangement with GPH. I've told St. Lucians, we are going to pay a much heavier price. And it says, you know, at Port Castries, congestion has been further exacerbated by the planned reconstruction of berth number 4. So the consumers have to pay for that because Slasper gave all of its money away to GPH. So the caller said that he had to pay $188. By the time this $50 US per day is implemented on every empty container at the port, and the charges are passed on to us. And there's one final thing. You know, the leader of the opposition made a statement. If you serve peanuts, you will get monkeys. And the Labour Party has taken this to say that he's calling people monkeys. Every phrase, and Andre, that is why I took on Stevenson King and what he said on the platform. Every phrase that is a regular phrase that is being used is turned around by the Labour Party as being racist. Are you aware that Sarah Flood is being taken to court by the Prime Minister saying that Sarah called him a racist?
No.
You're not aware of that? Okay.
No.
Wasn't he the one who said he's a little black boy? You know, it's like the Labour Party
So what did Sarah say about him? Do you know?
I don't know. I know he's made a statement that he's taking I think they have served letters already. Now that is the problem that we have in this country. That the Labour Party thinks they can get away with saying anything about anybody, and once other people speak, they want to take you to court. The leader of the opposition was highlighting what happened at St. Jude. That you take what you call patriots, you didn't pay them, and they go and do a makeshift report for you. It's better you had paid $1 million and you spend $100 million on the hospital. That would be $101 million. You took people, they go and do some nonsense for you for free, and now you have to spend $265 million. Now the focus should not be on what the leader of the opposition said, but what the report said. That is now costing. The report done by John Peters, Alison Jean and the crew is now costing St. Lucians, I think Hennicat and a few others were on that committee, is now costing the people of St. Lucia $265 million in addition to the $130 million that had been spent for a makeshift hospital that is an 80-year-old building. That is what St. Lucians should focus on.
All right, Andre, I think we have exhausted our time. I want to thank you. I want to thank Guy for being our guest this morning. I want to thank all of you who are listening and those of you who called in. And I want to wish you an enjoyable weekend. Forget your troubles for the next few days. Dance. But just remember, come Wednesday, we still have to face our woes in St. Lucia, and we have to attack them and deal with them head on. Thank you, and have a very enjoyable Carnival weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montoute, as well as Mr. Guy Joseph. Thank you very much. This has been Meet the Opposition. Heard on Rev-Up St. Lucia every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So listen and watch next week Thursday for another Meet the Opposition. This is where I come to the end of my stint here on Rev-Up for today, Thursday, the 17th of July. Thanks so much for listening. Up next, we have Kina. She'll be with you until 3 this afternoon. From 3 o'clock until 6 is going to be Zen the DJ. So do enjoy the rest of your day. Andre Paul saying, have a nice day. Bye-bye.